Okay, so if everyone's ready, we'll dive in. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Feel free to follow along, interrupt me if you have any questions. Questions are much welcome. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is we're going to start with the setup of Appulate, and then we're going to get into the workflow of how to process a submission from start to finish. And then at the end, I'll show you guys where to find additional training. So if you guys are taking notes on how to do something step by step, don't worry about it. We have step-by-step instructions. I'll show you where to find that at the end. So feel free to take notes if you want, but just know that there are some training tools at the end. Before we dive in, do you guys have any questions? All right, I'll take your silence as a no. So we're going to get started, and we're first going to go to appulate.com/sign-in, and everyone's username is their email. I did send, I think it was Penny emailed me today about the password. So if you guys have your password and you're following along, great. If you don't have a password yet, you'll just click on this forgot password and to reset your password. Okay, so when you manually sign into Appulate via the website, you'll be taken to your Appulate dashboard, and the dashboard will start to fill with all of your different insureds as you start to work within the system. So mine is empty because I haven't been working within the system with any insureds. The very first thing you want to do is download Appulate Uplink. Uplink is a simple print driver that allows you to bridge over your Accord forms into Appulate. Therefore, it's eliminating the need to rekey any of the data that you already put on your Accord form. Uplink complements any agency management system. And with that said, if you don't have an agency management system or a completed Accord form, you can always start directly with an Appulate using this Add New Customer or Prospect button. To locate Uplink, we're going to go to the middle of this dashboard and find this Tools tab. And from the dropdown, we're going to choose Appulate Uplink. You're going to click on this Download Uplink driver, and it takes about a minute to install, but once installed, Uplink will show up as a printer driver option. Now that we've reviewed Uplink, we're going to move on to WebLink, and we're going to go back to that same Tools tab and choose the last option, Appulate WebLink. To download, you're going to click on this Get Extension button, and WebLink is a browser-specific extension that allows you to bridge over duplicate data from Appulate to the carrier portals that a WebLink connection has been developed for. The download takes about 15 seconds to install, but once installed, it'll be ready to bridge over duplicate data from Appulate to WebLink carriers. And because this is a browser-specific extension, if you use multiple browsers to quote, you'll need to download the extension on the multiple browsers. So currently I'm in Chrome, so I have it downloaded in Chrome, but if you guys use Edge, whatever extension you use to quote, you'll want to do those if you use all three of those. Do you guys have any questions on Uplink or WebLink?
Nope.
Okay. So we're going to move on and talk about markets, and we're first going to go up to our dashboard under markets and choose selected. You want to think of selected markets as your agency's private library of markets, and this should be a list of markets that your agency represents or is currently appointed with. Feel free to remove any markets that don't apply to your agency, but just remember that this list is for your entire agency. So if you remove a market that you might not use, but maybe your colleague uses, it's deleting it for them, but it's a simple fix. You would just go, we're gonna add our markets to our library. So we'll just go to available. And this is the public library of markets that Appulate has a connection with. The list is really long, so I definitely recommend using the search function. So if we search for travelers, and we find the market that we want, we're going to go all the way over to the right-hand side in line with our market and click on this plus symbol. So this moves travelers from the available list to our selected markets. So in essence, it's moving it from the public library to your private library. Any questions on the markets? Okay. So once your markets have been added, the last piece of setup is adding credential information for the markets that require it. So to manage your passwords, you're going to go all the way over to the right-hand corner of your screen and click on your name. And down in this market login section, this is where you can add your username, your password, and your producer code if applicable. One little note, if you guys some agencies share login information, but if you have your own, you can always switch this if you have your individual one or if you use a shared one. Just make sure you choose the right option. If you do end up changing your password with the carrier, just make sure you come back in here and update that. I know some carriers require like 90 days to reset your password. Once you're done inputting that information, you'll click Save, and that is the setup piece of Appulate. Are there any questions? Okay, we're going to go into the workflow, and I'm going to start with my Accord form. But before I even open my Accord form, I ask that you not focus on the line of business I'm using for my example, but how I'm processing the submission instead. I say that because regardless of the line of business that you're working on, the workflow in Appulate will be identical. So although I'm going to complete a work comp submission today, the workflow won't change if you've been doing a business auto, a package, or a general liability. Uplink is the tool that we're going to start with, and there's two ways to utilize Uplink. First, you're going to open up your Accord form wherever you keep it. I keep mine on my desktop, but if you have it in your agency management system, that's fine too. You'll just open it up, click on your print button, and you want to make sure that your printer destination is Appulate Uplink. Then you'll click print, and a pop-up will appear asking you to validate your Appulate credentials. The second way to utilize Uplink is a popular shortcut. You simply just right-click on your Accord form, and from the drop-down menu, choose Uplink. That same pop-up appears asking you to validate your credentials. There's no right or wrong way to use Uplink, so feel free to use whatever way feels the most comfortable for you. And once your credentials are confirmed, your workstation will open Appulate and ask you to confirm the desired line of business. This will occur if the Accord form you're using is applicable to more than one line of business. For example, if I drop this menu down, the system is showing me what other lines of business an Accord 130 could apply to. This also allows me to change my desired line of business. Another example would be if I uplinked an Accord 125, and since the 125 is the general application, the drop-down list would be much longer since it applies to most lines of insurance. So I'm going to use work comp today, and once you confirm your desired line of business, you'll click continue, and then you'll be taken to our smart Q&A section. Any questions on how I got to this point? Okay. Before we dive into the submission, I want to talk about a few things first. And the first is this Master Insured tab over to the left-hand side. This is automatically created based off of the information that was on your Accord form. This tab will not change unless you change or add additional information to it. This tab also includes any contact information you included on your Accord forms. But if you don't put a contact information on your Accords, it's okay. You can just go all the way over to the right-hand side and add new. Heading back to this submission tab, you can see that it's labeled with the line of business we're working on, the effective date, and the current status of our submission. The effective date can be changed. So sometimes things come up, insured, sign things late, whatever. You can always change the date by clicking on it itself and typing it in, or using the calendar tool to change the date. If the date is changed, all currently existing forms and any newly added forms will automatically update with the new effective date, so you won't have to go back and change the date yourself. Appulate will do it for you. A contact can also be added to an insured record by going over to the right-hand side and clicking on No Main Contact. And since I had Nicole on my Accord forms, she's already listed here, but if not, if you didn't have one here, you can just add new contact. While on the subject of forms, I'm going to go over to my Forms tab over to the left-hand side under my Smart Q&A tab. And currently the form section is just reflecting our original Accord 130. At this point, maybe we know we need to add additional Accord forms, but we haven't completed them yet. So to save us some time, let's have the Appulate system complete them for us instead. To add additional Accord forms, you would just click on this underlined verbiage, available forms. And once you click, the list shown will be those that apply or could apply to the line of business you're working on. So I'm going to add my 125 by checking this box. And now that my 125 has been added, all of the duplicate data that was housed on my 130 has been bridged over to my 125 for me. So I don't have to repeat the steps of filling out step by step. Any questions on this part? Okay, so we're going to talk about Yeah, go ahead.
Jessica, this is Frank. I do have a question. At this time, would it be a good time to add supplementals or not?
You are one step ahead of me. I'm getting there right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good question. Okay, so supplemental forms are added to your submission based off of two factors. First is the line of business you're working on, and the second are the markets that you have selected. So to populate supplementals, we're going to add our markets. And to add your markets, you're going to just click on this plus symbol next to add markets. And you would then be taken to the markets that you want to submit your risk to. Keep in mind, we do have a list of open brokerage markets, and you can use these if you want, even if you don't have an appointment with them. So if you want to test it out sometimes, that's also an option for you guys. For training today, I'm going to be adding 4 markets that represent the 4 different ways that markets can be submitted to within Appulate. So now that my markets have been added, you can see that any supplemental forms that apply to my desired markets and my line of business, they've been added. And all of the data for my original Accord 130 has been dispersed to all supplemental forms shown. So if I click on this Westlake GA supplemental, for example, you can see that it's fairly complete based off of the bridge data for my Accord 130 and saving me some time by not having to fill it out manually. Of course, if you ever need to edit a document, you just go over to the right-hand side in line with the document you want to edit, and you can click edit. And there's the Q&A version that you like, but I know as agents, you might prefer looking at the form instead. So you would just choose inline, and it takes you to the form option. So anywhere that there's a pencil, you can edit that. Any questions on the supplementals? Okay. And keep in mind, additional options are found over on the right-hand side by clicking on these 3 dots. This reveals the option to send via email, via fax, sign forms or request signatures from your insured, or send a questionnaire to your insured to complete. You also have the option to send multiple forms to your insured to complete by going back into the Smart Q&A tab right over here. And then towards the middle of the screen to the right-hand side, you'd click on Send Q&A. This option allows you to select exactly what you want your insured to answer specifically. So I'm just going to deselect a few things. And once you click OK and enter your insured's information and click Save, an email will automatically generate. At the top of my email, you see a yellow informational box. It's asking you to configure my email. I highly recommend that you complete this step. Once you click Send, the system will then send a link to your insured via email. Your insured will click the mobile-friendly link, complete the questions that are presented to them in a clear and clean Q&A view. Once the questions have been completed, you'll receive an email notification that your insured updated a questionnaire. And when you log back into Appulate, you'll see that all of the data that your insured provided has automatically populated back into the Appulate platform for you. So you won't have to rekey any of the questions that they answered. So going back to the Smart Q&A tab, we're going to start working on our first submission. Our first market that we're going to look at today is Westlake GA. And Westlake GA has this little clover image next to their name, and this represents an Appulate style submission. Appulate style submission markets allow you to complete the entire rate, quote, and bind process for that market entirely within Appulate. You'll see this little lightning bolt next to AmTrust, and this represents a live API for that market, meaning you have an opportunity to receive an instant bindable quote from that market, as long as it doesn't need to be referred back to underwriting. Appulate style submission can be both direct carriers as well as MGAs or brokers. The only difference of workflow is direct carriers do not have submarket lists, while MGAs or brokers may have submarkets. Using Westlake GA as our example, we're being shown what markets they can approach on our behalf. We also have the power to select and deselect from the submarket list. So essentially, we're telling our MGA or broker what markets we want them to approach on our behalf. So for today, I'm going to use AmTrust and Encino as my examples. Just bear with me while the system loads. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. So once your submarkets are selected, we're going to move our focus to the middle of the screen to these letter indicators. And these letter indicators can provide you with valuable information specific to your submission. For example, if we hover over this red D that stands for decline, the market is providing us with their declination reason in the yellow box. On this one, the FEIN is already in the system and therefore it's blocking us. If this were a true declination, you as an agent might choose to stop right here because most agents don't try to submit on something that they're already blocked on. So in this case, I just need to give the system an acceptable FEIN. I'm going to click on this FEIN question. And because the link is live and dynamic in the system takes the guesswork out of where the question is and highlights it in a red box for me. So I don't have to go looking for where this question is. So I'm just going to update this FEIN really quick. Okay. So because I edited the FEIN and this was live, our letter indicator has changed in real time from a red D for decline to an orange A for pending acceptance. So if we hover over this letter indicator again, we can continue answering questions that remain in this live and dynamics links list. So I'm just going to input my limits. And this will automatically update and take limits off because I answered it. Now I'm going to be taken to this next section. I like to point out there's a few different ways that you can answer these questions. You can, of course, continue going through these live and dynamic links, or you can stay in this section. You can see right here in red, there's 6 questions that are required by the carrier to answer. So you can stay in the section, of course, and answer all as no. You can go through one by one, or a little shortcut is over to the right-hand side is mark all as no. So it answers them all at one time. I'm just going to continue going through these. So any questions while I go through these? Okay, the last piece of information we need is an insurance and a contact. So because I already had Nicole as my contact, I'll choose her. We need to give Nicole a role. Maybe she's the owner of the business, but maybe Nicole also is the billing representative. This person can have as many roles as needed. And the last thing is just a phone number for her. Okay, so now that we've answered all of our missing and required questions, we're going to head back up and you can see that our submit button is now green. So I'm going to click on my submit button. And my testing program is much slower than you're going to see on the production side, so bear with me while it loads. Okay. So since our API for AmTrust is live, we were able to receive an instant bindable quote, while our other submarket, Encino, will need to have a quote uploaded by the underwriter. When the underwriter uploads a quote on their end, you will receive an email notification letting you know that they've done so. I don't know if you guys work with AmTrust much, but I'm going to open this up really quick just so you can see. It's the exact same AmTrust format as you would normally see if the underwriter emailed you a quote or you downloaded on their website. Of course, you want to review your quote as you normally would and send it off to your insured. If you get to the point where you're ready to bind, then we're going to go over to the right-hand side and refer to this orange request to bind button. It's currently orange because it's letting us know that we have bind requirements to take care of. So if you hover over it, you can see that we need signed accords and we need to upload loss runs. Starting with our accord form, we're going to go back into the Forms tab to the left-hand side. And in line with our Accord 130, we're going to go all the way over to the right-hand side and click on the three dots and select Sign. We're going to select ourselves as the producer, and you can add your insured information right here. But for today, I'm going to deselect my insured and click OK. The form will then auto-populate for you to sign, and if you had an insured, it sends them a mobile-friendly link via email. Once your insured clicks the signature link, they're going to be taken through the exact same signature process we're going to look at right now. The form will populate, and to start signing, we're going to click on this jumping green arrow, and it takes us to the bottom to an orange box that we're going to click on to sign. You'll type your name in. You can choose a fancy font or save and insert. Either one works. Then there's another jumping arrow that takes us to finalize it. We want to agree to the terms and conditions of our signature. And once yourself as the producer or your insured signs a form, those signatures auto-populate onto the form. All signatures obtained are legal and binding in court, and an audit trail of those signatures will generate. If you want to download these forms, no problem. We'll just go back to our Accord form and drop this down. And over to the right-hand side is the signed document and that audit trail. Any questions on the Accord signatures? Okay. So next, we're going to upload our loss runs. And I do have demo loss runs, but I want to take you through the loss runner tool. So for loss runs, we're going to click on the loss runs tab. And you can see that Agora West is already in here. And that's because I had my carrier history on my Accord form. So that automatically came over. But if you don't fill your Accords out this way, it's completely okay. You'll just edit insurance history. And you can also input that carrier information right here. Okay, so Loss Runner essentially allows you as the agent to request loss runs on behalf of your insured in a few different ways, depending on your insured situation. So to launch Loss Runner, we're going to go all the way over to the right-hand side and click on this Loss Runner button. Loss Runner will launch with the default request type being letter of authorization. This is the most commonly used request type in the system and requires an insured signature. But if this doesn't fit what you need, you also have the option of broker of record letter, agency loss run request letter, and insured loss run request letter. You're not stuck with this default type, but for today, this is the example I'm going to use. Starting at the top, Appulate will populate your insured's information, followed by the market you're requesting loss runs from, including this editable destination. So if you know that your carrier has a specific loss run department and they have a specific fax number or email address, you can edit that to go straight to that loss run department. It's followed by the policy number and the policy period as they apply to your insured. And then it concludes with the body of the letter itself, which will provide the market with a return destination being yourself as the agent. And then finally, your insured's information at the bottom. Make sure you check this little box to follow up on this. Maybe you want to follow up on this in 10 days, and then you'll click send. Since this needs the insured signature, it will send them a mobile-friendly link to sign. And once signed, the signed request, including the audit trail that proves the validity of the digital signature provided, is sent to the market destination that you confirmed earlier in the letter. Appulate will track and timestamp all actions related to loss runner, with the exception of when loss runs are returned to you by the market. So once those loss runs are returned, you'll come back into the system and upload them. You'll go, and to upload them, you'll just go to the same loss runs tab. Over to the right-hand side, you'll click on these three dots, and you can upload your loss runs right here. Another way you can do, it's a little shortcut, I'll show you guys, is you can just drag and drop your loss runs as well. Just make sure this box turns like a blue-green color in line with your carrier. And now your loss runs are uploaded. This also timestamps who uploaded the loss runs and when. So now that we took care of the loss runs, that was the last bind requirement. So if we wanted to bind this quote with AmTrust, we could just click on request to bind. Do you guys have any questions on the Appulate style workflow? I know it's a lot of information.
I do, Jessica. That in this instance, I just wanted to make it clear to everyone that this is if you are the agent for the Agora policy. What if we weren't the agent? How can we get those loss runs requested through from the customer that we're potentially trying to write?
Yeah, I'm gonna have Sarah step in on this one because she's more detailed on that one.
It's exactly the same way. So the letter of authorization you'd actually use the letter of authorization and the insured loss run request letter, those can both be used if you weren't the incumbent carrier or the incumbent agent rather. So Jessica's example that she just showed, you can do that for any piece of new business where you're not the incumbent agent. It all has to do with what's written in the letter. Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, can you show us, Jessica, how to do that? Just as an example, how it would look.
Of what the letter looks like?
Yes.
Yeah, give me just a second. This is exactly what the letter will look like with a spot for your insured to sign down here. So this letter is from your insured telling Agora West that your insured wants Agora West to send loss runs back to you.
And that's the carrier, that's not the prior agent.
Mm-hmm.
So the prior agent is not notified in any way.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions before we move on to the next market style? Okay, so we're going to move on and talk about e-submission. And e-submission is indicated by this little globe with a paper scroll in front of it. And they're still partners of Appulate, just like Appulate style submission markets are. The difference is e-submission markets have carrier portals that they still want you to continue using, and that's absolutely fine. Appulate will bridge over the duplicated data housed in the system to that carrier portal for you. So to initiate an e-submission, we're going to go in line with arrowhead to the right-hand side and click on the submit button. The system will update your submission status to submission initiated, and a new button will appear over here that says finish submission. And we're going to click on finish submission. And the system will open the carrier portal and populate all duplicate data from the Appulate system to the carrier portal. You'll want to make sure you review your submission and answer any questions that were not duplicate in Appulate. You'll continue clicking through the screens and allowing Appulate to turbocharge your submission by populating duplicate data in real time. You'll still obtain your quote as you're accustomed to, whether it's through email or downloading through their website. But when you do obtain your quote outside of Appulate, you want to make sure you bring it back into the system. So to do so, we're going to go back into Appulate. And in line with arrowheads all the way over to the right-hand side, you'll click on these three little dots. We're going to upload our quote. And now the submission status is changed to quote prepared. If you bind it with this carrier, you'll want to mark it as bound, because this action ensures that your reports are accurate, as well as preparing the system for next year's renewal. Because Appulate can kickstart your renewal process by bringing forward all of the information for your insured from the year before and populating it into the new term. But to do this, you just have to make sure you upload that quote and mark it as bound if you do in fact bind with this market. Are there any questions on e-submission?
Just for, yes, this is Frank again. Just to make sure, we bind it because it's an e-submission. We bind it through the company's portal or website system, but then upload our quote that we're binding and then mark as bound so that we save for next year's renewal process.
Correct. Yes, Appulate will bring forward all of the information that you have already input into your renewal term, so you won't have to rekey any of that information.
Thank you.
Renewals are even faster in Appulate than starting fresh.
Great.
Any other questions on e-submission? Okay. So next is WebLink, and WebLink submission style is this more colorful globe next to their name, and it's very similar to e-submission. What makes them different is e-submission markets are considered in-network and WebLink markets are considered out-of-network. The actual submission process will look very similar, but they're both bridging duplicate data from Appulate to the carrier portal for you. So for WebLink, we're going to go in line with builders and click on the submit button again. But instead of clicking on finish submission like we did with e-submission, the system will open up the carrier window and you'll see the system start to run through the motions of auto-filling the data from Appulate. Kind of almost looks like a video. But once it pauses, you can fill out any additional data that wasn't duplicated and click through your screens to obtain your quote from the carrier. WebLink will continue to autofill the data in real time as you click from one screen to the next. And again, after you obtain your quote, you'll want to bring it back into the Appulate system by going to those three dots and uploading your quote. And just like e-submission, if you do in fact bind with that market, you'll just mark it as bound. So very similar, it just automatically populates instead of having to click that finish submission button. Any questions on the WebLink? Okay, our last one is email submission, and the icon for email submission is this little envelope. And if the market is labeled as an email submission and you're not sure whether the market accepts email submission, you'll want to reach out to that market directly to ask. So to start an email submission, I recommend adding your underwriting contact first. So to do so, in line with ACE, we're going to go over to the right-hand side, and under the contact column, we're going to click on select. And this is where you can add your underwriting information. And please know that your underwriter will not change regardless of your use of Appulate. So after your underwriter is added, we're going to click on the green submit button, and this will populate our email submission. Again, at the top, you want to make sure you configure your email, because this will allow Appulate to send the email out as you, as well as put a copy of the email in your email server's outbox. So you'll proceed to fill out your email submission as you normally would. And if you're within an acceptable time frame for that market, you can click submit. But let's say you're working on a submission in advance and you want to schedule an email to be sent at a specific date and time. You just need to click on this little clock icon, and this gives you your location's current date and time. So let's say I want to send this email out on July 19th. And of course, 12:01 a.m. because that allows us to block the market that day. You click done and click OK. And when you click OK, the system will schedule that email and the status for that market will change to scheduled. So now if you go over to the left-hand side and click on activity, not only is this a timestamp log of everything you've done so far regarding your submission, you can see that the last action was the scheduling of your email submission. So on July 19th at 12:01 a.m., there's going to be a new line activity in here. That's the sending of that email submission. You can also export this log using the Excel, this export to Excel feature up here. Super handy if you want. Do you have any questions for email submission? Okay, I'll take your silence as no questions. So that was the workflow within Appulate, and now I want to show you guys where the additional training exists. I know I told you guys you didn't have to take notes, so this is the training section. So training resources can be located under this Help tab at the top of your dashboard. And the Help Center provides searchable written-based article learning. So if you want to just type in Loss Runner in here, this will take you to a specific article and you can read about it. The second option is Quick Start. This is step-by-step instructions. So if you forget how to add markets, you can go under here and it gives you the step-by-step instructions. If you don't want to read the step-by-step, we also have the video tutorials. They're little short YouTube videos that takes you through that same process just as a video. We also have webinars under the Help tab. This takes you to on-demand training, so previously recorded trainings, or you can sign up for an upcoming webinar. So if you want to listen again to what we've talked about, you'll register right here. And the last option you guys have is if you click on the upper left-hand corner, Appulate pin, down in the right-hand corner, you'll see these bubbles, and you have the option to live chat with our support team. So if you're stuck on, hey, why isn't the submission going through? What needs to go on? You can live chat with our support team, and they can help you out too. Of course, if you ever need to reach out and you're stuck on something, you can feel free to reach out to me or email support@appulate.com as well. That's Appulate for you guys. Do you guys have any questions? We have some time, so feel free to ask any questions you have.
Adding a market, can you just go over that again? Especially like the MGA. We write with a lot of MGAs, please.
Sure. So to add markets to your guys' list, you'll go to Available. And Frank, give me a market that you guys frequently work with.
Cluett Commercial. C-L-U.
What was that? Sorry.
It's C-L-U-E-T-T. Commercial.
Is that right? Commercial. Yes. Okay, so they're not in here. Did I spell that right?
Yes.
Okay. So they're currently not in our system. Sarah, do you know if maybe they might be in the queue?
It's actually something that we can get added within 24 hours. So if you're able to provide the name of the market and either a website or an address, we can get them added right away.
We'd like to get them added right away.
Which one was that, Frank?
Cluett Commercial.
Oh, yeah.
But if let's say you worked with Liberty Mutual, you would search for them, and down here, you see this one, there's a login page. You would just go over to the right-hand side and click on this plus symbol. And if you go back into your selected markets list, you can see that now they are now in your available markets.
Thank you so much.
And if you Yeah, and if you end up not working with Liberty or another company again, all you have to do is go over to the same side, the right-hand side, and just deselect them. And now they're taken off. So you don't have to look at them anymore if you don't work with them.
Is there a way to make the screen a little bit user-friendly in terms of the view? It's pretty small.
You'd probably have to provide some additional detail, or like in terms of Appulate or in terms of Zoom.
The Appulate, the forms that come up and everything are fine, but it just seems like the screen I'm looking at right now is pretty small.
So you mean making the actual wording itself larger?
Yeah, make the screen can you make that full screen? Because I can't control it on this side. I want to, if you could, please, so we have it like full screen on our side.
It is full screen on Jessica's side. It might be, unfortunately, your particular view. I'm sorry.
I see what you mean.
And I just don't have a ton of markets because I'm just for training purposes, I just add the specific ones. But this could be a list of, 50 different markets. Any other questions?
Oh, there, I made it full on this one.
All right. Well, I will follow up with you, Frank, in a couple of weeks to see how you guys are doing, if you guys need any refresher or if I can help you guys with anything. I know it takes some time to get in there and get yourself familiar. I was an agent, you do demos all the time and then you're not sure how to do something. And so you just kind of stop doing it. So I will make sure I reach out to you guys to see if you guys have any questions for me.
Hi, this is Tom. I just had a real quick one at the end here. How do we get our individualized supplemental applications into Appulate?
So it depends on, let's go back. What line of business do you work on mostly?
Commercial auto.
Okay, so let's go. And what's a market that you submit to a lot?
National Interstate.
Okay. All right. So those look right. Ohio.
Yes.
That's
yep.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna go back. Just want to see if we have their supplemental for you. Okay, so it looks like, Sarah, we currently don't have their supplemental, so they can just send it to us and we can get that in the queue, right?
Yep, there's two ways to do it. You can email that over to support@appulate.com. Just tell us what market and what line of business it needs to be associated with. Or another way to do it, Jess, if you go to help at the top of the screen and click on contact us from the drop-down menu, then the request type, you can change over to new supplemental request. And the system tells you really exactly what it needs to know, the name of the supplemental. If you can add an example, that would be great. If not, we of course just at least need a copy of the supplemental itself. Go ahead and add any comments as you need them, click submit, and then that gets sent over to our forms team. So we can definitely add any supplementals that you're looking for.
Okay, great, thank you.
How long does it take, Jessica?
Sarah knows that timeline much better.
It really depends. So depending on how long the supplemental is a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a shorter supplemental, to get it loaded into the system and make it editable, it's usually about 30 days. To get it fully mapped so that it's mapped to a chord, it's usually about 4 months, depending on how long it is. That is if you're going the free route. There's no cost to request supplementals, but if you want them rushed, there is a rushed fee. That's just a slightly different situation.
I'd like to find out what that is, Jessica, if you could, because we'd like to expedite a few supplementals. But once we identify
Okay.
what's not available.
Okay. Yeah, we'll find out and I will get you that information.
Thank you.
Frank, did you happen to broach the subject about the Rivington app, which is in an Excel format? And
I already took care of
how,
it. Sent that to Brian
Okay.
already over at Appulate, and he's working on that as we speak.
beautiful, thank you.
It's one of our worst supplemental apps. That's why I sent it to him already, Jessica.
It's actually
Yeah, no
is the
problem.
worst.
Any other questions for us?
I don't think so. Rose, do you have any questions? Anais, Tina?
Not me. And I don't have questions. It's just it needs practice. You just need to practice on the thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Just looking like this, we just get an idea, but you need practice. That's all.
Wonderful. What I
Right.
did, what I asked is had Jessica record this session, and
Yes.
she's going to send it to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I will distribute it to everyone so that you can have it and work on
Oh,
it
nice.
side by side.
Yes. I do need to, the file is large, so I do have to have somebody condense it for me, and it'll be like a YouTube link I'll send you. It might not be till tomorrow morning because I'm not sure if she's still in, but I will definitely get it to you.
Thank
This
you
is
so
like
much.
this is like a management system, yes, agency management system, which downloads all the companies and everything. Is similar to what is it called? There's another market.
Indio is one thing,
Yes.
but it was more of duplicate informational.
I
Now
see.
this is helping us quote and all
Is
at
this the
once.
same thing that we can do? They can do signature as well?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting.
Thank you so much to
Thank you.
you, Jessica, and Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for all of your guys' time. I'll definitely reach out to see how you guys are feeling in the system within a couple of weeks to see if I can help you guys through anything.
Great. Thanks again.
Yeah, have a good day, you guys.
Great, thank you.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank
Yep.
you.
Take
No
care.
problem.
Bye-bye.